Yeah, while both platforms had applications called Nintendo eShop, while on the Wii U eShop you could look up games on the 3DS eShop and vice versa, you couldn't buy them. These were two separate entities, which like, goddamn, if they're two different stores, call them two different things. Which this just got messy. Virtual Console for Wii U was introduced in early 2013. NES games were being released there and the 3DS eShop during the same time, but they'd release the same games for both, months, sometimes even years apart from each other, and they'd be completely separate. So Yoshi for NES launched on 3DS eShop on February 21st, 2013. On Wii U, Yoshi for NES launched on June 12th, 2013. Same exact game that you'd have to pay for all over again in full just to play on Wii U. Most of the same NES games appeared on both systems, but some only released on Wii U and others only released on 3DS. Why? Cancer exists and you're asking that? The Wii U and 3DS eShops felt significantly behind on the times. Sony had their cross-buy initiative. You buy a PlayStation 1 classic game on PlayStation 3, you got it free of charge on PlayStation Vita. Now, they did that with some indie games and even full retail releases. And they were able to do this due to the use of their PlayStation account system. One account you use across all your PlayStation devices. And in 2013, to buy a game on 3DS and then going to your Wii U only to hear it say, "Who the f*** are you?" It's just depressing. I feel like Nintendo wanted to have these systems speak to each other far more than they did. I mean, I can view 3DS software available on the Wii U eShop, and why can I do that? But eventually, Nintendo finally combined the two eShops wallets. So pretty much, if you had 50 bones to your Wii U eShop balance, that money would also appear on your 3DS eShop. That's all it took for you? Well, when it came to actual software on the Wii U eShop in 2013, Nintendo's first major release was Google Maps. Wii Street U was a free app using Google Maps data where you could look up locations on your Wii U gamepad. Keep in mind, in 2013, this was one of only 3 games that released for the Wii U in February. It's just the Street View feature from Google Maps, but now with the option of moving around with the gamepad's gyroscope. For some reason, Nintendo thought this was immersive, so much so they released a similar application a few months later, Wii U Panorama View. Instead of looking up locations for free on Google Maps, this was a series of videos you had to shell out $2 a pop for. This was one of 3 games released in April. Why Nintendo was pushing the Wii U to do this kind of thing, I have no idea. It's not that it did a bad job at this. It was smooth and well produced. It's just you're holding a giant-ass serving tray with a comparatively small screen with a low resolution. Oh, Paris. The amount of worthless applications Nintendo put out on Wii U in 2013 instead of actual video games is shocking. We got Animal Crossing Plaza, a companion app to a damn 3DS game. It was integrated with the Miiverse social media platform of the Wii U and allowed you to make posts about specific animals in the game. If any post began with, "Listen, I'm just gonna say it," run. At least this was a free app, but they took it down a year and a half later, and the entire purpose of it was nothing but questionable. So this is for Animal Crossing New Leaf players to interact with each other on a console that can't play Animal Crossing New Leaf. Nintendo, just become a serial killer. You have the thought process of one. We got Art Academy Sketchpad for like, what, $4? It wasn't like previous Art Academy games on the DS and 3DS. There was no Academy. This is just a drawing application. Pretty much Nintendo pitched it as a way to share full-color drawings on their Miiverse platform, draw something in the game, share it via the screenshot functionality, which, hey, the usefulness of this app is very similar to something like Colors 3D. The problem is, this was just a demo for an actual Art Academy game that later came to Wii U. Like, Jesus Christ, did Nintendo release an actual video game on the Wii U eShop in 2013? No. Pokemon Rumble U, $18. Why not 19? This is genuinely one of the worst games Nintendo's ever released, which, hey, one of the Pokemon Rumble games had to make the list. Originally a WiiWare game where you progress through simple levels battling other Pokemon with one of 2 very basic attacks, Pokemon Rumble U brings things to the next level by charging $18. There are no levels, just battle arenas. You just go into a basic ring and fight a bunch of Pokemon. That's the game. This is absolutely miserable. Why it's so expensive, why it exists to begin with is beyond me. The only reasons I can think of would be to rush something Pokemon related out on Wii U, and not only was Pokemon Rumble in its normal state the easiest solution, Pokemon Rumble in a worse state was preferable. Or it was to bring these figurines to market, NFC toys you could scan on the Wii U gamepad to play with in-game. These things weren't really pushed though, so it might have just been a test thing, but I don't know. Pokemon Rumble U sticks with the Pokemon Rumble U tradition and is a piece of shit. Man, I don't know. Nintendo's Wii U eShop output has been pretty horrendous, but that all changed with the introduction of Wii Sports Club. Now it's just bad. Wii Sports Club was an HD remake of the original Wii Sports because at this point, Nintendo ran out of options. It's always felt a little more desperate than necessary to me. Like, okay, why remake Wii Sports? What did they improve? Well, HD visuals for one, the art design still uses the same incredibly basic Wii Sports style, so thank God. Oh man, Pong's in HD now. Wii Motion Plus is required for the games, which I'm just so used to how these games controlled without better motion control. Now that they have them, it's creepy. Golf and baseball both use the gamepad in unique ways. Golf, you set it on the floor and can see the ball. And the Wii U failed fucking why? Baseball's a bit more involved, using it as the pitcher and fielders. I'd say it's the only game that's really been enhanced by the gamepad use. The motion control upgrades across the board, while on paper they sound great, in practice, I always found them to make the sports more complicated and cumbersome at times. I mean, boxing is so much slower now. But hey, online multiplayer, now this was a big deal. You can finally play all the original games from Wii Sports online, and I barely ever did this. Why? Well, I'm never gonna say no to having the option. I feel like these games weren't optimized enough to feel natural with online play. I mean, compare bowling here to Nintendo Switch Sports. That has everybody bowl all at once, and overtime eliminates players that don't meet the score threshold. While in Wii Sports Club, it's pretty much just regular bowling. You have to watch the other players do everything, and when I say everything, that includes nothing. But that brings us to the way they delivered this content. Wii Sports Club was a free download in which after downloading, you could play all the sports as much as you'd like for 24 hours. Afterwards, you'd have to buy each sport outright, costing $10 a piece. Of course, that meant you could opt to not purchase some sports and only pick up the ones you want. But if you want a mere taste for a day, you could pay $2 for 24 hours access of all sports. But also keep in mind that Wii Sports Club only launched with tennis and bowling in November of 2013. In December, we got golf, and in June of 2014, we got baseball and boxing, and a full retail release in July for $40 containing everything. Yeah, explain that to Dad. How do you take one of the simplest, easy to understand games of all time and give it the strangest pricing structure you can think of? And most people got Wii Sports for free with their Wii, so why would they want to go from that to then buying each game individually? And who the hell would get the 24-hour day pass? I get they were trying to give it a sports country club feel. I mean, it's in the damn title, but at what cost? Too much. $40 overall for a remake of a game most got for free that you could already play on the console was remade on with minimal changes or additions outside of online multiplayer, which sounds amazing, but ended up being not nearly as fun as I dreamed when playing Wii Sports in its heyday. I'll still buy it, but still! Thankfully, Nintendo ended 2013 with a bang on the Wii U eShop. 2 games released right around the holidays. First up, NES Remix. Announced and released on the same day, this was an amazing little surprise that recontextualized classic NES games as bite-sized challenges. Unfortunately, some of these challenges would just be tutorials. Kick the turtles. Oh no, my ass! I've worked it off! But it's addictive to go through as many challenges as you can and try to get the best rank possible, Rainbow Stars. Though I think what NES Remix does best is actually make some of these games fun in a modern day setting. There's no human reason to play NES Baseball anymore, but in the form of a challenge mode where you still get to play the game, but in a more abridged fashion, almost like playable highlights, it all makes sense. It makes these games as fun as they were back when they released. Now, of course, just browsing around the menus, it's clear Nintendo positioned NES Remix as a bit of an advertising tool, making sure the players know they can buy the full games on the Nintendo eShop. But this element is definitely underplayed and never overtakes the experience. This genuinely feels like an ingenious method of making outdated NES titles cool again. But of course, the star of the show is the remix challenges, though I'd say these are pretty hit or miss. Sometimes these are as cool as playing Donkey Kong as Link, but because you're Link from the original Legend of Zelda, you can't jump. So not only is it wild to play the game as a different character, but they keep an attribute of that character to increase the challenge. But other times, the remixes are basically just adding a filter to the game. When they hit, they really hit, but I find a lot of them to have too minor of tweaks to be really that cool. But when it comes down to it, NES Remix was exactly what the eShop needed. Something familiar yet incredibly fresh and fun. And for only 15 bones, I'd say this was the one eShop game that belonged on everybody's Wii U. But on New Year's Eve, that number increased by 0. Dr. Luigi, a new entry in the Dr. Mario puzzle series featuring Luigi because, well, we weren't feeling bad enough for Nintendo. So Dr. Luigi was created in commemoration of the Year of Luigi, Nintendo's worst financial year. A year-long celebration of Luigi's 30th anniversary. Yeah, why not let him diagnose me? Of course, on the last day of 2013, you kind of actively date your game by having Dr. Luigi stand on a giant Year of Luigi podium, but it doesn't really matter because all Dr. Luigi is Dr. Mario on the Wii U. You could have a giant banner at the top that says, "Congratulations on becoming a state, Wyoming." And it wouldn't matter because it's just core Dr. Mario gameplay. You pop in, play a quick game, pop out. So I don't think dating this game with the Year of Luigi makes it unplayable. The fact it's the same damn game from WiiWare does. Dr. Mario Online RX was a fantastic little WiiWare game for $10. Then 5 years later, Dr. Luigi releases for $5 more, introduces a mode with L-shaped pills, and the color green. Yeah, I gotta be honest, this is a pretty pitiful follow-up to all the Dr. Marios before. This is literally just Online RX, but in HD, with this new mode. Operation L. Instead of matching up a pill with 2 colors to the viruses in the bottle, and now you have to deal with an L-shaped pill. God damn, who gives a shit? This doesn't change the game. If anything, it just makes it easier because you have more pills, you have more chances to clear all the viruses. A lot of the music is reused from Online RX, the rest of the modes are. This just always felt like a fairly passionless project. I mean, it's cool that the viruses here have new designs, and this Virus Buster mode, returning from the WiiWare game, plays differently, focusing on using the touchscreen of the gamepad. But it's not enough. This just feels like it was put together with not much thought at all. It's a completely competent modern Dr. Mario experience, but that's the only reason why I ever booted it up, because I just felt like playing Dr. Mario. I'm not perfect. And that was Nintendo's Wii U eShop output in 2013. Does anybody else feel itchy? I'll leave it up to the third parties and indies to pick up the slack. I'd say Tokitori 2 was one of the big headlining indies this year. I mean, a sequel to a late release Game Boy Color game exclusively on Wii U? It's a shame because Tokitori 2 is a great little puzzler with loads of charm, and they also put out the remake of the original game on the eShop that very same year. It's always heartwarming to see developers really get behind certain consoles and create their games exclusively for them. It can help out, as in the case of Tokitori 2, that was one of the only original games that released on the Wii U in April 2013, and even if the game has released on numerous platforms since, I always see it as a Wii U game. But it is so risky to do that, especially for such a niche series like Tokitori. And some games, as much as I associate them with Nintendo and the Wii U as a whole, did release across multiple platforms, which was for the best. BitTrip presents Runner 2 Future Legend of Rhythm Alien, a great auto-scrolling rhythm platformer succeeding the BitTrip series on WiiWare, specifically BitTrip Runner. You know, there's not much to say outside of how addicting this game can be, and it's great to see how Runner 2 breaks free of the Atari 2600 styled graphics of the original BitTrip series. As while that was unique, especially compared to how other retro-esque games would almost always tackle NES-style 8-bit at the time, it was for sure limiting, and you can only take the series so far with those types of visuals. And while that original series was exclusive to WiiWare for the longest time, Runner 2 launched on PC, PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and Wii U, which was definitely smart for the developer. Though, this was always a Wii U game to me, much like DuckTales Remastered. DuckTales on NES by Capcom was always seen as this legendary title, one of the greatest on the console, setting the standard for licensed games based on cartoons. But because of that exactly, it was never re-released. Licensed games are just trickier to do that with. But thankfully, we got something even better, as Capcom, Disney, and the developer WayForward came together to fully remake the game. Now with these beautiful hand-drawn sprites, 3D backgrounds, remixed music, and fully voice-acted cutscenes. I love this game. In my opinion, it takes the iconic original and makes it so much better. The controls, the level design, the boss fights, they tweak things to make everything flow a bit better as a modern game, while still respecting the original and maintaining what made it so great. Cloudberry Kingdom was another multi-plat release, this one published by Ubisoft. It's a 2D platformer with procedurally generated stage design, meaning every time you play, the game will auto-generate a new level, meaning you will always have new stages, and they will always be very mediocre. I mean, this is a fine little download title. I had it on the Xbox 360 and thought it was decent enough to waste some time with every now and then. But it was no Mutant Mudds Deluxe, which is Mutant Mudds again, and only Mutant Mudds can claim to be that. This release has a bunch of extra levels and adjusted visuals due to the lack of a 3D display, but other than that, it's Mutant Mudds. It's a good little platformer, but I want something unique to Wii U. And horny. Spin the bottle, Bumpy's Party. Oh they got Bumpy in on this? One of the most unique Wii U games, honestly. A local multiplayer-only joint that barely uses the TV at all. It's all about huddling around the gamepad and using it to do all kinds of stupid things, like play Spin the Bottle Bumpy's Party. It's honestly pretty damn close to something like 1-2 Switch on the Nintendo Switch, where most of the fun comes from interacting with the other people in the room, while the video game portion is more so in the background, encouraging that kind of behavior. I'd say this is a pretty alright party game to have. Without children in the room, how is this rated everyone? Past the Badger? Zen Pinball 2, Castle Storm, Mighty Switch Force 2 launched on Wii U a few months after debuting on 3DS in summer of 2013, this time retaining the pixel art style opposed to the hand-drawn style of Hyperdrive Edition. We got the Cave by Double Fine and Sega, a Dungeons & Dragons Chronicles of Mystara, an old-school arcade game by Capcom brought back to modern platforms, Gianna Sisters' Twisted Dreams. It was apparent there was a decent enough amount of stuff to play on the Wii U eShop throughout 2013. But it was more apparent what wasn't there. Soul Calibur 2 HD, released on Xbox 360 and PS3. This game was infamous for having exclusive characters for each console it released on, with Link from The Legend of Zelda in the GameCube version. I mean, talk about a missed opportunity not putting this out on Wii U and bringing Link back. And we didn't get other games that released on PlayStation Network and Xbox Live Arcade, like Call of War as Gunslinger, Darkstalkers Resurrection, Retro City Rampage, which got a damn WiiWare release, but not on the Wii U eShop. So what did the Wii U eShop get? They should have killed it sooner. The Nintendo 3DS eShop in 2013, by comparison, you know what? I can live with this. Nintendo kicked things off this year with Tokyo Crash Mobs, just like me. So this is the game that's all about being wacky. It's a reskin of the puzzle game Magnetica, which is a reskin of Ballistic, which is a reskin of Puzzle Loop, but this takes place in Tokyo. Well, not saying this didn't, but yeah, I've always heard of this game, but never tried it. I assumed it was going to be anything but a Zuma clone. I also assumed melanoma was the sleeping hormone, so. Sploosh! You throw a rock down a well, and it's still better than Pokemon Rumble. I actually had this one back in the day. It was pretty cheap in a basic high score based game. Try to get the rock down there as fast as possible, hitting the least amount of obstacles. It was fine enough for what it is, but for me, in 2013, it was all about Harmonite. Created by Game Freak, the Pokemon developers, Harmonite is very similar to a game like Runner 2. It's a rhythm game presented in the context of a platformer. You have to jump and attack at the right time to keep the beat. I loved the presentation, the character designs, and the feel of hitting a note was exhilarating. But after replaying this, you know what sticks out? Not the music. For a rhythm game, this title has some extremely forgettable tunes. None of it is bad, but it just feels weird for something like this to not really prioritize the soundtrack. Though there's some Pokemon music in there, which is nice, and overall the game is still quite good. I love to see Game Freak spread their wings and do something non-Pokemon related from time to time. But damn, Harmonite never got a sequel, which is something Dylan's Rolling Western can't say. The Last Ranger. I am genuinely asking, what do you want me to say? The only other Nintendo-published 3DS eShop game of 2013 to discuss, that's right, they were a bit later this year, is Mario and Donkey Kong Minis on the Move. So this is an entry in the Mario vs. Donkey Kong series. Who know that? I guess they changed it to Mario and Donkey Kong to signify how this title plays pretty much completely differently compared to the other entries, but you could also say that about Mario vs. Donkey Kong 1 compared to the games that followed. Regardless, that series became this whole stinking heap of nothing. Just the same puzzle platformer ripoff of Lemmings over and over again. This one here is just a ripoff of Pipe Dream, and I am so happy because of it. Your mini toy starts following the directions of the tiles, and you have to place new ones in a correct order to get them to the end. It's not the most original idea, but damn it, it's executed well, and the production values are great here. I'm really bummed they didn't continue with this idea, and instead decided to go back to hell where they belong. But we'll get to that in due time, because while Nintendo's output here was light in 2013, we got some heavy hitters from the other studios, namely Capcom with Phoenix Wright Dual Destinies. Yeah, unfortunately, this was an eShop exclusive, digital only. got a physical release in Japan, but nowhere else. It's a shame because this is a fantastic evolution of the Ace Attorney series. It brings the iconic pixel art into full cel-shaded 3D, and it looks outstanding. Weirdly enough, this was the first game in the series to be rated M, just for a bit more blood on screen than usual. It's like, come on, was this really necessary? I mean, in the end, being an eShop exclusive is not as difficult to buy if you're too young compared to at the store. Who cares if it's 17 and up?
Surely no one.
The first of the Senran Kagura games launched as an eShop exclusive here in North America in 2013. Oh man, Target didn't want this. The Picross E series launched in 2013, at least here in North America. Listen, I love Picross, but like, you own one of these, you're good. Gunman Clive was a cheap little Mega Man-like game. It's similar to many eShop games where, like, if this wasn't cheap on a handheld without too many games releasing for it all the time, it wouldn't stand out as much. Not to say it's a bad game, not at all. I just remember this being labeled as one of the 3DS eShop games. Like, it's just fine, okay? Nano Assault EX was an updated version of a 3DS game that launched physically in 2011, so the enhanced version was strangely digital only. Bugs vs. Tanks. Which side are you on? I know I play as the military in the game, but I'll wear my heart on my sleeve. I had a dream like this once. Attack of the Friday Monsters of Tokyo Tale is definitely quite a lot better. This is an oddly nostalgic feeling experience. It feels so genuine and heartfelt with a unique car battling mechanic. Jet Rocket 2, a sequel to a WiiWare game, fine. It's a more than basic 2D, 3D platformer hybrid, which was cool on WiiWare because that was really pushing the boundaries there. But on the 3DS eShop, I mean, 3D games were more and more common, so this isn't nearly as cool. However, a big standout on the 3DS eShop was the Sega 3D Classics line. Different from Nintendo's from earlier, this was something Sega did on their own accord, and they pumped out so many more titles. Most of these were fantastic. And just the fact that Sega put out considerably more games than Nintendo, yet they all included more features than the Nintendo 3D Classics ever did, it just makes me ask, why the hell did it do Urban Champion? But to wrap up 2013, easily one of the eShop games of the year, SteamWorld Dig. This kind of came out of nowhere. Most people didn't even know this was a follow-up to a DSiWare game, SteamWorld Tower Defense. But when this hit, it was an instant must-buy for so many 3DS owners.